Versatile Mage. Chapter 26. What happened to the trust? Ice spread. Without stopping or hesitating, Mubai yelled in a rush, demonstrating all of his hard work. His pupils changed. After he finished his magic activation, those watching suddenly realized there was a layer of frost spreading over the body of the puppet. The ice quickly covered its body, making it look as though it was painted in a layer of ice lacquer. It was astonishing. The stabbingly cold air pervaded the entire exam grounds. Creak. The ice spread didn't stop after it covered the entire puppet. It even began to spread onto the floor of the exam grounds. The other classes also had ice element students who had taken the activation exam. Clearly, their ice spreads weren't as imposing as Mubai's. The other students felt intimidated and took a step back, feeling like the ice was about to spread to where they stood. The directors and examiners remained calm, but their eyes flashed with praise. This was the equivalent of a proficient ice element skill. It had reached the standard of a member of the Magic Association. This level was actually set up for older students by the Magic Association. A student who had only awakened a year ago and was capable of utilizing the ice element skill to a proficient level was extremely rare. Not bad. Mu Juoyan still gave the same evaluation. Mubai didn't know whether he had truly entered Mu Juoyan's eyes. With his heart feeling nervous, he shifted his gaze toward Mu Ningzhu. As he looked at her, Mubai felt as though an arrow had pierced his heart. His most beloved Mu Ningzhu hadn't looked at him from the start. Instead, her gaze had always been attentively watching a certain person in his class. Mubai followed her gaze, and another arrow pierced his heart. Mo Fan. She's looking at Mo Fan. Scoundrel, scoundrel. Why is she looking at him again? What is there to look at in a guy who's practically covered in trash? Why aren't you looking at my remarkable display of skill? Mubai's nervous face twisted in frustration. On the most important day of his life, all he wanted was Mu Ningxui's attention. Yet, in the end, she still looked at that little hooligan. That clown only existed to entertain the princess. When you're done laughing, move on. Why are you still wasting your precious attention on him? I will make you suffer immensely. Mubai's face grew exceedingly gloomy. He carried a heavy resentment as he left the exam grounds. Your marks are extremely outstanding. Your Stardust is S, and your activation is B grade. The examiner announced his results. Even the top students usually only received a C or D grade on the activation test. The only other person who had received a B was the lightning element user, Zhu Zhaoting. With grades like this, he deserved the title of number 1 in the school. Next, Mo Fan. As people were admiring Mubai magnificently seizing the crown, it was finally Mo Fan's turn. The truth was, Mo Fan felt something was off. Why did it have to be me after that green tea man? Was this arranged? Mo Fan refused to believe in such coincidences. Still, it didn't matter. If one needed sleep, one should sleep. Different situations called for different measures. If you don't act, there'll be no storm to face. Are you all right? He whispered as he watched Mubai walking over. I did what you told me to, Mubai replied sinisterly, sounding like a scheming woman. I'm doing this for Mo Jiaxing's good. By directly sweeping his son out of here, I'll save him the trouble of worrying endlessly. His son was never suited to study magic from the start, yet he still forced his way in, he said. He and Mubai had their own ways of dealing with Mo Fan. Before the examination, he had used his authority as school director to scheme carefully. The bald examiner was one of He's people, so the order of the examinees was something he had arranged. As soon as Mubai finished his exam, Mo Fan would go next. After Mo Fan's test, there would be a break for rest and the announcement of grades. During this short window, a trick could be played. For example, when Mubai placed his hand on the star appraisal stone, he could slip in a black stone. The black stone's effect was simple. When the star appraisal stone emitted its radiance, the black stone could absorb part of the energy, dimming the light significantly. So, if Mo Fan barely reached a C grade, This tiny black stone, no bigger than a grain, could drag it down to a solid D. Either way, he was just trash. Who cared if they made him look like complete and utter trash? The school shouldn't waste resources on someone like that. Expelling him would benefit both the school and his family. Mu Bai's smile twisted further. How will you avoid losing face this time, Mo Fan? Mo Fan, that name sounds familiar, Mu Juoyan said slowly. Big brother, he is the son of Madam's driver, Mu he reminded him. At that moment, Mu Juoyan's icy gaze shifted. He had already noticed Mo Fan but was puzzled. How was it that Mu Bai's and Mo Fan's examinations happened one after another? Mu Juoyan glanced at Mu Ningzhu. She quickly recovered her calm demeanor, acting as though she was watching mediocre students without a hint of emotion. Mu Juoyan felt a trace of satisfaction. A child will always have a rebellious phase. Once they grow up, they'll shed the childishness. Let's watch then. He also counts as one of our Mu family. At least, he was, Mu Juoyan said indifferently. He knew well that a driver's son could never achieve much. Letting Mu Ningzhu watch would be beneficial. It was a reminder that people like Mo Fan were common in Small Bo City and would fade away sooner or later. Mo Juoyan didn't want Mo Fan to remain a scar in his daughter's heart. On the other side, Mo Fan wasn't paying attention to their conversation. He walked up to the star appraisal stone and, like the others before him, placed his hand on it. To be honest, I'm glad he's here. He can set the bar lower for me so I won't feel too miserable, a failing student said. Third brother, I also got a D. Don't worry, we can leave together naturally, said Xiao Bing, his water element dorm mate. Whether he can even get a D is hard to say. Yeah, he probably hasn't made any progress at all. In the same class, Zhuman, who also possessed the fire element, was watching closely. She wanted to know if he had studied or not. A person with higher fire element talent than her being expelled was a pity, but at the same time, she despised Mo Fan for not putting in the effort to improve himself. There's light coming. The radiance seems weak, weaker than a D grade. On the star appraisal stone, the radiance looked shy, unable to escape from within. However, the light inside was relatively strong. It seemed to be concealed by a shadow, unable to break free. Wait, something's off. That light, it doesn't look like AD. Really? Grade C. Xiao Bing stared in astonishment, unable to believe Mo Fan had caused a C-grade fire element radiance to appear. We said we'd leave the school together as failures, but you barely meeting the qualifications with AC. What happened to the trust between one failure and another? Chapter end. Versatile Mage. Chapter 27 Framed Examination. Is it C? No. That's not right. The radiance is still spreading. The examiners were puzzled. Other examinees had quickly finished the tests, but this student's radiance, though weak at first, was steadily growing stronger. It had gone from D to C, and was still increasing even after reaching grade C. B. This is definitely a B. Holy cow, a comeback. The failure is making a comeback. That must be a mistake. I only got a B. How could this guy possibly get a B? The other fire element user, Huang Feifeng, was nearly in tears. Zhou Min had received an A, and even that little kid Da Niu had gotten a B. Out of the 4 fire element students, only Huang Feifeng had gotten a C. How was he supposed to win Mrs. Tang Yu's favor now? Zhu Musheng's eyes lit up immediately. As the homeroom teacher, his biggest fear was that someone in his class would drag down the average score. For the past 3 years, all he had asked of Mo Fan was that he not get publicly expelled during the exams. If Mo Fan could manage that, Zhu Musheng would be satisfied. What he never expected was for this great Buddha to suddenly get a B. The class average was roughly a B-. Mo Fan's score had actually pulled the average up, a result Zhu Musheng hadn't even dared to dream about. Right now, he was even happier than when one of his students got an A. The discussion in the stands was just as loud as when Mu Bai had taken his test. After all, Mu Bai was already known for his good grades, while Mo Fan was infamous as the dreg of all dregs. And now the dreg had gotten a B. Too many people had been caught off guard. How is this possible? How is this possible? Mu Bai was stunned. His uncle, Mu He, was equally speechless. What was going on? That kid got a B. Mu Bai, did you really place the black stone there? Its absorption rate is so high that someone who could normally get a C wouldn't even manage a D, Mu He whispered. I definitely placed it there, Mu Bai replied. Even if he made mistakes in his own exam, he wouldn't mess up that part of the plan. The black stone was definitely there, so how did this guy get a B? Wasn't Mo Fan usually drifting between C and D? Had he been hiding his strength all along, only to unleash it at the last moment? AC was passing, but AB was considered quite good. Who could have imagined that someone expected to take the school's harshest penalty, one that hadn't been handed out in 3 years, would suddenly become a good student? This grade was well within expectations, Mu Juan said with a tone that carried a hint of mockery. His own daughter had almost been taken away by this kid. If that had really happened, he would have been ridiculed by everyone. Alright, let's move on to the next class, Mu Juan said to the group, not wanting his daughter to pay too much attention to Mo Fan. Big brother, this Mu Bai, Mu He started. He was dissatisfied with the outcome. The plan had been for Mu Bai to shine in front of the clan and for Mo Fan to suffer a humiliating defeat. Neither had happened. How could he just let it end like this? Oh. Give their family a little extra during New Year as encouragement, Mu Juan replied. Mu Bai was stunned. What the hell was a little extra during New Year supposed to mean? He didn't want pity money. He wanted recognition, support from the Mu family, a Stardust magic tool, and the vast cultivation resources given to direct descendants. This, big brother, I think, Mu He began, but another voice interrupted. That's wrong. This radiance is wrong. It was a woman's voice, soft yet firm. Mrs. Tangyu, what objections do you have regarding our decision? Normally, the results are decided by the examiners. Even if we wanted to object, Zhu Musheng began. He was actually extremely satisfied with Mo Fan's grade. He had even suspected that the star appraisal stone might have malfunctioned. Otherwise, how could Mo Fan possibly get a B? Mrs. Tangyu, please let this matter go. If there really is a problem, I, as the homeroom teacher, would lose face, Zhu Musheng added. Teachers may not object to the examiner's grading, Mrs. Tangyu replied, but they can object to accidents during the examination. We can also inspect the testing equipment to ensure accuracy. A school director subtly shook his head at her, and the principal kept signaling her to drop it. They knew there was something fishy, but with so many school directors present, no one wanted unnecessary trouble. What's wrong with the result? Isn't this a normal score for a student like him? Someone muttered. Why do you object to this result, honorable teacher? Mu Juan asked, intrigued. Mrs. Tangyu walked onto the examination ground, her brows furrowed. Suddenly, she closed her eyes like a magician preparing to cast a spell. Those familiar with magic knew she was expanding her senses into the stone. Her actions immediately caused Mu Bai and Mu He to panic. Normally, after a student finished the exam, there would be a short break to announce the best student of the first half. During that break, the bald examiner was supposed to discreetly remove the dark stone without arousing suspicion. It had been a flawless plan, until this teacher unexpectedly discovered something. Mrs. Tangyu, how can you ignore the rules of the examination grounds? If I were you, I'd leave immediately, Mu He shouted, trying to intimidate her. But Mrs. Tangyu wasn't the least bit afraid. She walked straight to the star appraisal stone, eyes sharp. This stone has a problem. The examination must be redone, she declared, staring directly at the examiner. The bald examiner panicked and looked at Mu He. Mu He feigned confusion. What are you standing there for? Go check. We must give examinees a fair environment. If there's a problem, fix it immediately, the principal said righteously. The 3 examiners went to inspect, and quickly found the hidden dark stone. That's strange. We already inspected this earlier. How could this suddenly appear? One examiner said in astonishment. Whenever a student finished, they rechecked the stone. After Mu Bai's exam, the bald examiner himself had done the inspection. Now, he was terrified. Covering up for someone tampering with an exam was a serious offense. Chapter end. Versatile Mage. Chapter 28. It's actually an S. How is it? The principal asked the 3 examiners. Before the 3 examiners could report the emergence of the dark stone, He spoke up. Oh, since there's a problem, why don't you let him do the test again? Director Wang, please go to the storage room and grab another star appraisal stone. Although the star appraisal stone is useful, it's a little fragile. After receiving interference from different energies, it can start having problems. I'd really like to thank Mrs. Tang Yu for noticing the issue with just a glance. You're truly covering up for our mistakes. He was really an old fox. He immediately covered up the matter, leaving the 3 examiners unable to report the actual problem. Tang Yu's brow furrowed. She knew this matter probably had something to do with He. If she made this public, the school directors would be troublesome to deal with. After thinking it over, she decided it would also affect the students' examinations, so it was better to leave it alone. All right, redo the test. Redo the test. Student Mo Fan, there were some small problems with the star appraisal stone. The grade from before is invalid. We will give you one more chance to redo the examination, the bald examiner quickly said, clinging to a straw of hope. Mo Fan looked at them as though they were a group of clowns. You want to play? Keep playing. This father is waiting. Great, go take the test again. At most, you'll receive a D. How could you get a B? Third brother, we can once again leave the school in a natural manner, Lu Shaoying said excitedly. The heavens hadn't turned their back on him. He was so thankful that Mrs. Tang Yu discovered the problem. Just as he'd said, how could Mo Fan, someone with even worse luck than him, suddenly turn things around? Mrs. Tang Yu, why did you even bother? Giving this student another chance isn't necessarily a good thing, Zhu Musheng said with a half smile, half sigh. So it really was the star appraisal stone malfunctioning. This made Zhu Musheng feel bad. What was meant to happen was finally coming. The penalty no one had received in 3 years was about to land on a student in his own class. Ha ha, how could I, Huang Faifeng, possibly be at the very bottom? Mrs. Tang Yu, you're a hero. I really admire you, Huang Faifeng said, relieved. On the other side, Mu Bai's henchman was also extremely happy. Almost scared the hell out of me. I really thought this dreg was making a comeback. Even I, Zhao Kunsen, only got a B. Good, good. Mu Bai, this broken star appraisal stone almost let that kid pass. I've realized Mrs. Tang Yu is increasingly more like the lover of my dreams, Zhao Kunsen said, wiping cold sweat from his forehead. Oh. Mu Bai, why do you still have such a long face? Didn't they say he only received a B due to the malfunction? Don't worry, he'll definitely be kicked out. Could you shut up? You're annoying. Mu Bai snapped, clearly in a foul mood. Zhao Kunsen backed away, not knowing how he'd offended his master. The examinations for the other classes had basically ended. Because of the problem with Class 8's test, many people began to gather around them, including the top students from other classes. At this moment, Mo Fan had accidentally become the center of attention. All right, Mo Fan, you may redo your exam. Mrs. Tang Yu, you've inspected it. There shouldn't be any problems this time, right? The bald examiner asked with a flattering smile. No, there isn't, Mrs. Tang Yu replied. Her dark eyes seemed to scorch his face with their lack of friendliness. Mo Fan once again stood in front of the star appraisal stone. This time, There was no cold air coming from it. It really was Mu Bai's fault. Mo Fan snorted coldly. Thankfully, the sexiest and most enchanting Mrs. Tang Yu discovered the problem early. Otherwise, he would have been humiliated in front of the school directors. Mo Fan closed his eyes and placed his hands on the star appraisal stone. The cold surface quickly warmed from the circulation of his stardust energy. The radiance began to intensify, the scarlet glow burning from within. This time, there was no suppression. The light spread freely, enveloping the star appraisal stone, even leaking out of it. This radiance. The first to show an incredibly shocked expression was Mu Juoyan. The principal, vice principal, disciplinary teachers, and school directors also widened their eyes. The radiance is overflowing. Homeroom teacher Zhu Musheng was flabbergasted. After so many years as a teacher, he knew exactly what overflowing radiance meant. In the entire school, only Mu Bai had achieved overflowing radiance before, and now the fire element radiance from Mo Fan was even a bit stronger than Mu Bai's ice element. Damn! The students from other classes and Class 8 alike felt crushed under the weight of that word in their hearts. Overflowing radiance. This really was overflowing radiance. A student considered a weak-minded failure had actually achieved this. It's S. It really seems to be S. How about we inspect it once more? The bald director Wang and the two examiners had gone crazy. The classmates who thought Mo Fan would be expelled had also gone crazy. This is the real malfunction. How could his cultivation be at this level? It's an illusion. It must be an illusion. I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe it. Xiaoying, the water element student, wailed like a ghost. What happened to us leaving the school together? Forget the fact that Mo Fan didn't honor his title as a failure. He had become a divine student. If Mo Fan can become a divine student, then I, a water element magician, might as well drown myself right now. Even the normally expressionless Mu Ningzhu was showing emotion. Not even she had imagined this result. For someone like Mo Fan, who had no special talent or family wealth, AB would have been normal. Yet he had achieved overflowing radiance. Fire element overflowing radiance, one level above Mu Bai, who had benefited from family resources. For some reason, Mu Ningxui's heart bloomed with warmth, like the radiance of the fire element itself. That really is shocking. I almost missed out on an even more remarkable student, a school director exclaimed. That's right. I can't imagine what a disaster it would be if we gave him only AB and lost such a prominent magician. Better late than never. Mrs. Tang Yu, we are truly grateful for your ability to spot details. As the school directors flattered her, Mrs. Tang Yu only returned a small smile. The truth was, even she was extremely surprised. She had always thought the most outstanding fire element student in her class was Zhuman. But to everyone's surprise, Mo Fan was even more remarkable. Most importantly, he had always cultivated quietly, without the need to compete or show off. This temperament was ideal for a magician. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 29 A beautiful casting. Fire Burst. The other fire elemental user, the goody two-shoes girl Zhou Min, looked at the overflowing radiance. Her small face clearly showed her disbelief. This student, whom she had always loathed for not making any progress, was actually stronger than Mu Bai. Had she been wrong this entire time? Their shock and disbelief was still far less than the defeated look on Mu Bai's face. His expression could hardly even be called an expression. It was a complete distortion. Even his cramping facial muscles twitched uncontrollably. What could be worse than being utterly surpassed by the person you hated most? Zhao Kunsen, the henchman, rubbed his eyes over and over again. Yet what he saw was still that overflowing radiance. The superiority he had been flaunting toward Mo Fan had been completely obliterated, leaving him looking like a comical fool, lofty and smug in the middle of the crowd, but now utterly ridiculous. Final result is S. The highest score in the school was S. However, Everyone could tell that the magical capabilities within Mo Fan's stardust were slightly greater than Mu Bai's. Mo Fan, do you wish to continue the exam? Naturally. Mo Fan gave a slight smile. This daddy has been waiting for this for a long time. If the world hadn't changed, I would have reached this level during the high school examination. Fortunately, the outcome is still good. Mo Fan was eager to test his activation. Wasn't the point of bitter cultivation to shine like gold in front of others, glinting and dazzling? Fire burst. His entire aura shifted. After chanting the incantation, his whole bearing radiated confidence. A searing aura frantically spread from Mo Fan's body, washing over the cheeks of hundreds of people. The scorching heat was undeniable. The fire star path quickly mobilized around him as he completed the arrangement of the stars. A fierce, blazing red light, the unmistakable presence of fire. The flames burst forth from Mo Fan's half-clenched hand, like a vicious, impatient beast. Go! With a wave of his hand, the flames streaked across the exam grounds like a dazzling scarlet streak, striking the human-shaped puppet squarely. Burn! He raised his hand high. After a moment of silence, vicious flames erupted from within the puppet's body. The more it burned, the more ferocious it became. In mere seconds, the raging fire had engulfed the puppet entirely. The reflection of the flames danced across Mo Fan's smiling face, his confidence soaring. This was Fire Burst, the fire force he controlled. Its charm needed no explanation. After finishing, Mo Fan turned around. Every single person was dumbstruck. The teachers, students, and directors hadn't even recovered from the shock of his S grade in the previous test before witnessing his flawless Fire Burst casting. There was no hesitation, no force, it was natural and smooth. His casting speed was even faster than Mu Bai's. The fire element's primary spell was far more violent than ice. The crowd's reaction was even stronger than it had been for Mu Bai's ice spread. This was not only Mo Fan's beautiful turnaround, it was the sheer, boundless power of his fire elemental aura. Give your marks, Mo Fan said casually to the astonished examiners. A, B, A. As expected, Mo Fan's grades were higher than Mu Bai's. Mu Bai looked as if he was about to have a heart attack. If this continued, he might really stop breathing. How could this be? This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Both scores, higher than his. Is this really the Mo Fan we know? This is the greatest turnaround in history. From zero to divine student in an instant. It's blinding my dog eyes. Zhu Qinglan exclaimed. Zhu Musheng's mouth curved into a crooked smile. He didn't care about the feud between Mo Fan and Mu Bai. His class had suddenly produced a student with an S grade and the highest activation test score. If things went well, Mo Fan could be number one in the entire school. From last place to first place, nothing could be more shocking. With Mu Bai in second place, both the top students would be from his class. A promotion for him was almost guaranteed. As expected of the Mu family. Brother Mu Juoyan, your family has truly given our small magician organization an eye-opening experience. If I recall correctly, this Mo Fan is the son of your Mana's driver. Being in a noble family must have influenced him unconsciously. He's become a preeminent student in Bo City. Deng Kai from the Hunters Union said. Mu Juoyan looked at Deng Kai. Deng Kai was both a high-ranking member of the Hunters Union and a director of Tianlan Magic High. Among the school's directors, his cultivation and strength were the greatest. As Deng Kai praised Mo Fan, the other directors sighed in admiration. You can't help but admire it. The son of a driver, yet already this talented, comparable to the carefully nurtured seedlings of great families. Mu Juoyan slowly recovered from his shock. He had never expected Mo Fan to have such ability. Hearing praise from those in his circle made his face light up. As his mood improved, he began to think. Mu Ningzhu had carried the family's honor for many years, but most of the other direct descendants and branch disciples required the family's support to consolidate power. The Mu family lacked strong fire element magicians. Although this boy had once angered him greatly, he was still young and inexperienced. After so many years, there was no need to pursue the matter. Perhaps it was time to offer him some benefits, to draw him into the family's service. He would not let him approach Mu Ningzhu, but he could place him under his eldest son, Mu Jiangming, and nurture him into a remarkable fire element henchman. A talented person was worth recruiting. Mu Juoyan stroked his beard, feeling pleased. Seeing Mo Fan leave the examination grounds, he called out, "Mo Fan, come here." Mo Fan glanced at him, unsure of the old scoundrel's intentions. After a moment's hesitation, he walked toward the directors, stealing a glance at Mu Ningzhu. "Damn, I haven't seen her in years. How is she even more beautiful now?" Mu Juoyan let out a cold snort. Mu Ningzhu turned her gaze away. Mo Fan also withdrew his eyes. "You called?" Mo Fan asked, raising his head to meet Mu Juoyan's tall, imposing figure. In front of others, Mu Juoyan carried the prestige of a king, making people afraid to even breathe. But Mo Fan was different. To him, aside from raising a beautiful daughter, Mu Juoyan radiated nothing but the aura of an old scoundrel. Chapter end. Versatile Mage. Chapter 30. Did water flood your brain? Our Mu family received some cultivation resources for the fire element a while ago. Unfortunately, most of the people in the manor are ice elemental users. Your fire elemental talent is not bad at all. Your cultivation even surprised me. Thus, I'd like to give these resources to you. From now on, when you're not attending classes, you may cultivate with Mu Jiangming, Mu Juoyan said, stroking his beard. These words were said in public. From Mu Juoyan's point of view, doing this also gave Mo Fan a lot of face. The branch disciples within the manor scheme and compete to display their abilities to him, yet he doesn't even give them the slightest bit of attention. A person like Mo Fan, who isn't even a disciple of the Mu family, receiving this kind of opportunity is simply a huge leap in fortune. In this society, there are always exceptions. As the head of the Mu family, he couldn't be narrow-minded and only care about the disciples within. Brother, how could this be? Mu Bai's talent is even better. Perhaps he was just a bit nervous today, and thus wasn't able to display his utmost abilities. Also, he is from our family to begin with. He was extremely shocked and hastily tried to speak. After Mu Bai, who felt as though his heart had been pierced by thousands of arrows, heard this, it was as if he were a corpse being viciously whipped. His expression was hideous. Damn, that was the opportunity to become an inner disciple Mu Bai had been dreaming of. Mu Bai had racked his brain trying to erase the title of branch disciple. Only after becoming a true core disciple of the Mu family would he receive generous cultivation resources and no longer be the half-young master freeloading under someone else's roof. It wouldn't matter if he didn't get it, if it weren't given to the person he hated most. This corpse was so angry, it almost resurrected. I have already made my decision, Mu He. You do not need to speak any more. Mu Juoyan waved his hand, his face still holding a slight smile as he looked at Mo Fan. What's wrong? Are you too happy to respond? Hurry up and thank this master for his kindness. Mu Juoyan was pleased with himself. He could forget former enmities and recruit a student with no background, showing himself to be a magnanimous ruler. Mo Fan, why are you still stunned? Hurry up and thank master for his good grace, Zhu Musheng hastily urged. Zhang Xiaoho, Lu Xiaoying, and Zhu Qinglan were admiring him endlessly. In the past, Mo Fan had been a small, insignificant figure lost in the crowd. In just a flash, he had become Mr. Perfect. Mo Fan looked at Mu Juoyan's smiling face, his own expression still startled. Finally regaining his senses, Mo Fan pressed his lips together. After a pause, he finally spoke. Did your brain get flooded with water or something? What did you say? Mu Juoyan's face filled with doubt, as if he didn't believe what he'd heard. I said, did water flood your brain or something? Mo Fan repeated, word for word. Everyone clearly heard it this time, but their expressions were filled with confusion. What? Brain? Flooded. He just said Mu Juoyan's brain was flooded. Heavens! Mo Fan had gone mad. Mu Juoyan heard it very clearly now. His beard bristled as rage flared in his eyes. Your next words had better be a good explanation, or else. An explanation. Of course, I have one. Mo Fan nodded, then continued. Don't pretend you didn't suppress my family 3 years ago with your so-called sense of justice. I, Mo Fan, am not someone you can slap and then win over with benefits. 3 years ago, you spoke to my father and me as if we were dogs. Maybe your memory is bad, but mine isn't. I'll tell you this, old scoundrel, don't say you want me to join your family for my own good. Even if you sent Mu Ningzu to me with a dowry so I could enter your family, I still wouldn't do it. Do you really think the world revolves around your Mu family? And you expect me to be moved to tears? Other than your brain being flooded, I can't think of any other explanation for your thinking today. As he cursed, the anger he'd been suppressing for years poured out smoothly, without a single hitch. The principal, the school directors, Deng Kai, Mu He, Mu Bai, Zhao Kunsen, Zhu Musheng, the students of Class 8, and even Mu Ningzu were all completely shocked. Mu Juoyan's face turned exceedingly gloomy. Creak. As rage consumed him, frozen crystal ice began to form beneath Mu Juoyan's feet. The cold aura from his fury spread rapidly through the air. Mu Juoyan was truly angry. He couldn't remember the last time anyone had spoken to him like this. Calling him the tyrant of Bo City wasn't far from the truth. The powerful people of his generation, school principals, the high-status members of the Magic Association, even Deng Kai from the Hunters Union, all treated him with respect. And yet, this kid Mo Fan dared speak to him this way. The aura filled the grounds. A frightening ice spread. The sand and gravel of the training ground froze into a solid layer of crystal ice within seconds, with Mu Juoyan at the center. The icy aura was vicious. The hot summer day instantly became winter, and the training grounds turned into an ice floor, like a gigantic mirror. This mind-blowing scene terrified the students, making them cry out in fear. Mu Juoyan hadn't even cast a spell, just his aura had frozen the entire training ground. What level of cultivation had he reached? Compared to Mu Bai's earlier, tiny ice spread, Mu Juoyan was simply a colossal monster. Juoyan, control your temper. This is a school, and there are students here with no defensive capabilities, said Deng Kai, the school director from the Hunters Union, stepping between Mu Juoyan and Mo Fan. With Deng Kai blocking him, Mu Juoyan's intimidating power lessened slightly, though the air was still so oppressive that those nearby found it hard to breathe. A few people who could still move froze mid-step as Tang Yu arrived. Tang Yu would never permit Mu Juoyan to harm her students. Even if she wasn't a match for him, she would still stand her ground against the Ice Elemental family head. Chapter end. Please guys, like, comment, share, and subscribe.